Good evening, Danvers residents and taxpayers. I am here today on Friday, November 22nd, after the show that we've produced last night. We found out that we had technical difficulties. I need to apologize for not having the show presented at 5 p.m. like it was scheduled to go out live. Our technical difficulties have been corrected and refined to some extent, and the show is being produced and presented to you at a schedule. The first one that's going to be repeated, it was this afternoon, but we have another one tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and the schedule goes on once a day. The show was very important to us, and we appreciate all of the technical support that we received from DCAT last night, because as soon as I got home, I had phone calls in and out all evening long. The show was shown last night at 8 p.m. The sound quality is not as good as we always have. That's why I wanted to come on and just explain the situation that, and as you know, I am a conspiracy theorist, but I believe this was an honest mistake, and we need to correct it in the future, and we will. So the one thing that I wanted to get across to our community is we have an outline of the show that's printed. And what we did last night, one of the most significant pieces of this show was the selectmen's meeting of last Tuesday. The selectmen, in their wisdom, have decided to appoint an individual who volunteered, I suppose, to the Beverly Airport Commission, and I was one of the candidates. I had the qualifications. I have 30 years of public service experience. And for one reason or another, the Board of Selectmen decided to follow the direction of Mr. Trask with his comment that was very unfortunate and unrequested and not required. He is very concerned about my positions that I have taken in defending the taxpayers and ratepayers in this town. I am looked down as somebody that is involved in the outside of the government. The government doesn't know what they're doing, and that's my issue. So I have brought up several issues, and this is the reason why Mr. Trask made that specific comment, which was totally uncalled for. My qualifications are good, and they should have appointed me to the Airport Commission. However, they decided to select someone else, which is fine. I'm glad that we had the volunteers that were available for them to make a selection. I do not regret applying for the position, because I think I would have done an excellent job in representing the Danvers residents of the Airport Commission. We have 2 seats, and I was going to apply, or I applied for one of those seats, which is vacant at this time. The next item that we discussed, and that's the last one I'm going to address, is the tax calculations that have been made at the meeting. At one point in the meeting, this was called a tax classification meeting, which is really a misnomer. This was a meeting to establish the tax rate for our residents and ratepayers and taxpayers in this town to cover the costs that have already been spent. And those costs have been identified in the budget by the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen are not taking any responsibility for that budget, but they had the audacity to raise your rates in the first calculation of the tax rate up to 12.85% at a 1.477 classification rate, which is the increase that is shifted to the business or landowners and building owners' responsibility, and the other 2/3, which is 66%, remained at a lower rate for the residents. The residents, and excuse the expression, got screwed. The 12.85% tax increase was ridiculous at the first glance. I spoke against it, and I spoke in regard to where that money is coming from and where is it going to, what's it going to pay. And it's going to pay for the overspending that this town does through the Board of Selectmen. The selectmen use the excuse that the town meeting approves it. Yes, they do. But the thing is, who are the leaders in this town? The second rate increase that they voted on was proposed after a deficiency was found in the calculations. And the calculation at that time raised the tax rate by 9.2%. That's what was published in the newspaper. That also was a ridiculous number that should not even have been considered. The selectmen know better, but they didn't understand what this was all about. The 9.2% was the number that was published in the newspapers because the newspapers were running out of time, and they rushed out and approved that article in Salem News. Salem News reported the wrong numbers. I went to Town Hall on Wednesday, day after the calculations were released, and I knew that that number was wrong. And I went to the assessor's office and found out that there was another mistake that had to be corrected because the rate did not go up to 9.2, but it should have or will go up to 3.2 or 3.4%, which is more realistic to what we've had over the years as the tax rate increases. Now, the excuse was that the values of our properties have gone up tremendously. Well, therefore, if the values of our homes, our tax rate should have reduced. So this 3.2 number is still suspect, and the problem is that nobody wants to address it, and your selectmen are sitting there approving rates that are tremendously out of range, and they have no concept of what the heck they're doing. So please, I want to express my apologies for bringing this to you this afternoon, but I believe that I owe you an apology in regards to the show not being presented in the fashion that it normally is, and I ask for you to continue viewing our program because our program is the only one that relates to the issues in Danvers. Town Hall doesn't like it. The selectmen don't like it. The selectmen have a grudge against somebody that wants to question what they're doing. So please, accept my apologies and tune in on Tuesday of next week, which is November 26th, where we'll have a special that will include members of the town meeting new members, old members, and future members, hopefully, that will come and address some of these issues, because the town meeting needs to take some action because the selectmen are unable to do it.